Hello guys, welcome to the Sleepy Theorist, where we don't just fall asleep, we drift through the deepest questions in the universe. Tonight's story isn't about how stars are born, it's about how everything we know ends, quietly, completely, and in plain sight. You've seen the sun 1,000 times, rising, setting, warming skin and sky. But what if I told you that same light is slowly preparing to unmake everything it once created? Not in a sudden flash, but in waves of unstoppable heat, in oceans boiled dry, in shadows erased from existence. This isn't a doomsday tale, it's the slow science of collapse, the calm death of a star we still trust, and it begins long before we notice anything is wrong. So if your eyes start to close as we go, let them. But if something in you wants to stay awake a little longer, just to understand how it all slips away, I'll be right here. Tap like if this moment feels gentle. Subscribe if you'd like more quiet truths. And tell me, what time is it where you are tonight? Let's begin with the day the sun forgets how to stop shining. You lie still, eyes gently closed, the weight of the day slowly lifting from your body. Around you, the world hushes. The walls fade, the ceiling dissolves. In its place rises a sky older than anything you've ever known, wide, watchful, and full of breath. Above you, a quiet glow presses down through the dark, soft and golden and steady. It is light, yes, but not the kind that belongs only to now. This light has come a long way to reach you. It left the center of the sun hundreds of thousands of years ago. Not in a hurry, not in a rush. Born from the collision of atoms in a place too deep for light to escape easily. A place so dense that photons, tiny messengers of energy, are lost in a crowd. Bumped, scattered, absorbed, reborn. For eons they drift inside the star's thick interior, like fireflies in fog, zigzagging endlessly before finally rising to the surface and breaking free. By the time a single beam of sunlight touches your skin, it has already lived 1,000 lives within the sun's heart. It has been delayed, redirected, lost and found again. Its journey is slow, but its purpose is unwavering. You feel it now on your cheek, on your shoulder, a warmth that feels immediate, but this warmth is ancient. The photon that lands on your hand might have started its voyage, while woolly mammoths still roamed the earth, or while your distant ancestors carved symbols into cave walls, or even before any human voice ever echoed across the plains. What you feel now isn't just heat, it is history, a warmth that remembers, and yet despite its age it moves fast, so fast in fact, that once it escapes the sun, it takes just over 8 minutes to reach Earth. In those 8 minutes, it crosses 93 million miles of space, a gap so wide, so empty, so perfectly silent, it seems impossible that anything could travel through it. But light does, always, patiently, relentlessly, without sound. You live bathed in this quiet rain of golden radiation. Every day, without asking, the sun delivers its gift. It brings life, color, vision. It warms oceans. It feeds forests. It wakes sleeping flowers. And it speaks to your skin, your blood, your bones. Your body responds, adjusting its rhythms to match the length of the day. The sun gives you morning and night, sleep and wake, hunger and rest. But not all light is gentle. Some wavelengths are invisible and fierce. Ultraviolet rays slip between clouds and burn unguarded skin. They stir the molecules in your cells. They tinker with your DNA. Sometimes they help, sometimes they do harm. And so, even the most beautiful warmth carries danger. Even the most comforting glow hides an edge. You know this instinctively. You turn your face to the sun and close your eyes, not because it is blinding, but because it is powerful. You squint at its intensity. You cover your skin in its peak. The same light that nurtures your life can also unmake it. It is not cruel, it simply is. The sun does not choose what it warms or what it burns. It just burns. For most of your life, you never stop to think about it. The sun rises, the sun sets. It is background, constant, reliable. But tonight, under this quiet sky, you listen differently. You let your mind trace the path of a single photon, not just from space to Earth, but from the very core of the sun where it began. A place so dense, so hot, that a spoonful of its matter would outweigh a mountain. A place where nuclear fusion pulses like a heartbeat. At the sun's center, hydrogen atoms are squeezed so tightly that they merge to become one, and in doing so, they release energy. This is fusion. This is fire born from pressure. And this is how the sun has burned for billions of years without running out of fuel. Each second, it fuses hundreds of millions of tons of hydrogen into helium. Each second, it releases more energy than a million Earths could ever use. And it has done this without pause since before Earth was even born. Yet the sun does not explode. Its power does not tear it apart. Gravity holds it together, pressing inward just as fusion pushes outward. This perfect balance between collapse and expansion is the quiet miracle that makes your days possible. Without it, the sun would flicker out or blow apart, but instead, it shines steady, golden, kind and cruel all at once. Sometimes you feel its rhythm in your breath, the way your chest rises and falls, the way your body warms in light and cools in shade. You are not separate from this star. You are shaped by it. Your skin evolved to sense its presence. Your circadian rhythms depend on its brightness. Your memories of childhood are wrapped in its summer glow. Even your sight is an echo of sunlight. The colours you see, reds, greens, blues, are reflections of light scattered and absorbed. Without sunlight, there would be no colour, no shape, no contrast, only shadow. Your eyes are built to catch what the sun gives off. In that way, even your vision is a conversation between your body and a burning ball of gas millions of miles away. And so, when you lie beneath this sky, you're not just lying still. You are basking in history. You are absorbing messages from the deep past. You are being touched by the breath of a star. You are connected by photons that have travelled across unimaginable distance, just to reach the curve of your cheek, the ridge of your knuckle, the edge of your eye. Some cultures called the sun a god. Some worshipped it, feared it, prayed to it, and while science may not kneel, it still listens. It still stands in awe. Because even now, with satellites and equations, with maps of solar flares and models of radiation, we still marvel. The sun remains at its core a mystery wrapped in fire. And it will not always be this way. Already, deep inside, the balance is shifting, slowly, invisibly, but inevitably. One day the fusion will falter, the hydrogen will thin, the light will change, but not yet, not now. Tonight it still burns. Tonight you are warmed by an ancient promise. As you lie in stillness, your thoughts flicker gently between stars. You imagine what it must be like to fall inward toward that golden heart, to drift in space and feel nothing but heat, to become light yourself, timeless, quiet, and endlessly moving. You do not sleep yet, but you are close. Somewhere between thought and dream you drift beside the light. It has taken so long to reach you, and it asks for nothing in return. The night holds steady, the sky remains, and the light continues to fall. Far away, in a corner of the galaxy, a cloud of gas begins to swirl. The light that warms you now was once unimagined. Not absent, just unshaped, long before the sun ever burned, before Earth turned in its orbit, before even the idea of warmth had meaning. There was only dust and gas, scattered through the dark like forgotten breath. Nothing solid, nothing shining, just drifting particles, suspended in silence. You float now through that early sky weightless, without direction, without beginning or end. The cloud stretches for light years. It is vast and cold and almost still, but not perfectly. Somewhere inside there is a ripple, a slight imbalance. One atom brushes another, ever so gently. Not with force, not with urgency, just enough to make gravity curious. And gravity is always curious. It begins to pull softly at first, like a hand brushing fabric. It draws matter inward, folding it closer. Not quickly, not dramatically. Over thousands, then millions of years, the cloud grows heavier at its centre. The dust becomes denser, the gas begins to fall into itself, and where before there was only silence, now there is weight. You drift deeper into this gathering. You feel the temperature rise not with flame, but with friction. Atoms packed closer together begin to rub, to resist. Pressure builds, heat gathers. This is not yet fire. It is the tension before the spark. You float at the edge of transformation. The collapse continues. The center tightens. The gas turns thick. Every fold of gravity deepens the heat. You move slowly toward a forming core, a knot of pressure, where something ancient and inevitable is beginning. There is no light here, not yet, but there is the promise of light. In this heart of falling matter, the forces of nature start to shift. Gravity becomes stronger, the pull sharper, the compression relentless. And then, without fanfare, fusion begins. It is not an explosion, it is not a roar, it is a whisper that has waited 1 billion years to be spoken. Hydrogen atoms, packed so tightly together, can no longer resist each other. Under immense pressure, they merge. And in that merging, something new is born: helium. And with it, a release of energy so pure it hums at the edge of space. This is the first light. A photon escapes, then another, then millions. You are there as the protostar awakens. The cloud around it glows dimly, lit from within. Not yet the sun, but no longer only dust. A newborn star, hidden inside its collapsing cradle. You watch it flicker, unstable, uncertain, pulsing with early breath. It will take millions more years for it to grow strong, for its layers to settle into rhythm, for its light to find its voice. But the beginning has begun. You drift around it now, watching gravity and heat play their long game. The surrounding dust, once dispersed, begins to form a spinning disk, flattened, wide, alive with motion. Tiny clumps appear within it. Pebbles, then stones, then planets in embryo. Among them, Earth will someday spin. But for now, there is only the dance of fragments, held by the same force that created the star. The sun is still young, still learning how to burn. It throws tantrums of heat and flares of radiation. It shudders with sunspots and storms. But at its core, it has found a rhythm. Hydrogen in, helium out, light, heat, gravity, balance. This is the pulse of all things that shine. The star stabilizes. The dust thins. The sky around it clears. And now, for the first time, its light reaches out across space without obstacle. It touches the far reaches of its system. It kisses the surfaces of rocks and ice. It marks the beginning of time, not as a calendar, but as a glow that can now be felt. You imagine this moment not as fire, but as breath. The sun breathes for the first time. Its warmth begins to sculpt the space around it, and though it does not yet know it, life will one day wake in its light. You think of how gentle the violence of creation can be. A star is born not with a bang, but with patience, with gravity's slow persuasion, with heat building in silence until it can no longer be contained. There is power here, but not chaos. There is light here, but not yet vision. You return your attention to the star's core. It is a furnace, yes, but a quiet one. Not roaring, constant, reliable. Every second, billions of atoms collide and merge. Every second, energy is released enough to warm a world. And still the sun remains steady, balanced by its own gravity. It holds itself together through force and fire. And this balance matters. Too little gravity, and the fusion would fade. Too much, and the star would collapse upon itself. But here, in this narrow line between too much and not enough, the sun endures. It is here that Earth will find its seasons, that oceans will rise and fall, that plants will bloom, and creatures will crawl from water to land, drawn toward warmth. You watch time stretch around the new star. It ages slowly. It rotates, it gathers planets. Its light strengthens. Its glow defines a system, all from a single cloud that once drifted unnoticed in the dark. And so, you breathe with it. You feel its rhythm. You remember its origin. Not as fire, but as gravity. Not as thunder, but as surrender. This is how stars are born, not as kings, but as quiet centers of trust. Dust that dared to collapse. You lie still again now, floating above the newborn sun. Around you, space is wide and silent, but at the center, a warmth grows. A light older than memory, younger than the stories that will one day describe it. It will burn for billions of years. But in time, even the most balanced furnace begins to shift. Even the quietest star must eventually change its fire. The warmth you feel in your chest is not only your own, it is borrowed, ancient, shared. Your body, quietly resting beneath layers of skin and time, is stitched together from pieces once scattered in space. Carbon, calcium, iron, each atom built in stars that died before your Sunday was born. You are not just warmed by the sun, you are built from stars like it. Deep inside your chest, your heart pulses with a rhythm that feels natural, personal, human. But somewhere beneath awareness, that beat follows a much older cadence. The same laws that guide the sun's fire govern the flow of ions in your nerves, the fold of proteins in your cells, the balance of forces that hold your shape. You are a constellation drawn in flesh. Inside the sun, the work never stops. In its core, at temperatures exceeding 15 million degrees, hydrogen atoms are pushed so close together they merge, not by choice, but by force. These atoms do not resist forever. Gravity insists, and so they surrender, fusing into helium, and in doing so, releasing energy that ripples outward. This process is called nuclear fusion, but you don't need the term to feel its meaning. It is a kind of becoming, a transformation that gives more than it takes. It is the source of all light, all heat, all life in your corner of the cosmos. Every breath you take is made possible by this ceaseless union of elements. It is fusion, not fire, that fuels your world. You lie quietly now, breathing in the residue of a chain reaction that began before dawn. The sunlight that touches your skin, the food that fuels your cells, even the warmth in another's touch, these are all expressions of a quiet furnace millions of miles away. The sun does not flicker or fail. It does not ask for praise. It simply continues. Every second, it fuses 600 million tons of hydrogen. Most of that mass becomes helium, but a tiny portion, just a fraction, is turned into pure energy. That energy escapes as photons, radiating outward through layers of gas and plasma, until it reaches the surface, then space, then you. You absorb it without noticing. You are part of its path. And you carry that energy with you, not only in motion but in memory. Your brain runs on chemical signals made possible by sunlight. Your eyes evolve to respond to its brightness. Even your emotions, the way light makes you feel, are tied to its rise and fall. When it is absent, your spirit dims. When it returns, you feel hope. The sun's fusion is constant, but not chaotic. There is order within the fire, a balance of pressure and pull, of reaction and release. It is this balance that creates its long life. Too much pressure, and the star would collapse. Too little, and it would blow apart. But the sun walks the narrow line between steady, humming, patient. You do the same. Your body is filled with balances, just as delicate, between oxygen and carbon dioxide, between heartbeat and breath, between mind and muscle, between growth and decay. You do not burn as the sun does, but your life depends on the controlled release of energy. In mitochondria, within every cell, tiny engines turn the energy of food into fuel. It is a slower, cooler fusion, but it echoes the same principle. Even your temperature mirrors the sun's gift. You stay warm not only because of your biology, but because the earth itself stores solar heat. The rocks beneath you once drank in sunlight. The oceans still hold its shimmer. Even in darkness, you feel the echo of a furnace 93 million miles away. And still, the process continues. Hydrogen becomes helium, helium becomes light, light becomes life. It is a sequence that feels holy not in a spiritual sense, but in a structural one. It is the scaffolding of existence. The sun does not think. It does not choose. But through its constant transformation, it enables everything else to begin. You imagine now what it might feel like to stand at the edge of the sun's core. There is no solid ground, no silence, no space for thought, only pressure, only heat. Atoms crammed so closely together, they lose their sense of self. You would not survive there, but some part of you recognizes the logic of it. You were made from that logic. The sunlight that now warms your pillow began its journey long ago. It traveled outward from the sun's core, through its radiative zone, a region so dense that light moves not in straight lines, but in drunken loops, absorbed and re-emitted again and again. It may take thousands of years for a photon to reach the surface, to find the sky, to finally escape. And yet, here it is. It lands softly, not with a flash, but with a sigh. You do not hear it, but your skin does. It responds in warmth. Your eyes feel it too, even through closed lids. The body knows sunlight. The mind remembers it. The soul, if you believe in one, may be shaped by it. You begin to realize you are not separate from the sun's fire. You are an extension of it, a cooled version, a living ember, given form. Your thoughts, your voice, your dreams, each made possible by light that burned in silence before the earth was formed. You do not need to travel far to touch a star. You already carry its legacy inside you. This realization is not loud. It is not a revelation shouted from mountaintops. It is a whisper felt in the bones, a soft truth, buried in the pulse of your fingers. The sun is not out there. It is in here. Every part of you carries a note from its melody. You do not need to understand the equations. You do not need to memorize the names of particles or layers. You only need to feel the warmth on your skin and know that it comes from somewhere deep and fierce and ongoing. You only need to breathe and know that you are a part of this quiet, burning process. And it continues. Even now, as you rest, even now, as the sky dims and sleep nears, the sun is still fusing, still giving, still becoming, and one day it will begin to change. Not suddenly, not with a bang, but with a slow shift in balance, a quiet unraveling of rhythm. But for now, it burns steadily. And you, made from light and memory, continue to glow softly in its warmth. Inside the sun, light is born into stillness. Not the stillness of peace, but of pressure. A single photon, the smallest unit of light, emerges in the core, where atoms are crushed by gravity and temperature exceeds 15 million degrees. You imagine yourself as that photon, not a beam, not a flash, but a flicker of energy newly released from fusion's fire. You are not yet shining, you are simply possible. You do not race outward, you cannot. The path ahead is thick with particles, protons, ions, electrons, all of them dancing, bumping, colliding in wild random motion. The sun is not empty. It is a storm of matter in a container of gravity. You try to move forward, but at every step you are caught, absorbed, rerouted. You flicker into an atom's embrace, vanish for a moment, and reappear, headed in a new direction. This is not travel as you know it. It is more like trying to leave a crowded room in complete darkness, surrounded by moving bodies, each one nudging you off course. You drift a few centimeters. You are stopped. You are scattered. Again and again. Each time you are reborn, you lose the memory of where you came from. Direction has no meaning. Time stretches. You do not age, because light does not age, but you feel delay. It is baked into your existence. For a photon, to travel from the sun's core to its surface can take tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of years. Not because the distance is so far, but because the journey is so tangled. It is like trying to escape a labyrinth that constantly rebuilds itself around you. And yet, you persist. You are a particle of light. You carry energy. That energy is patient. It does not forget its purpose. So you scatter, you leap, you vanish and return. You are absorbed by one atom, and then cast out by another, your path bending with every touch. There is no straight line, only motion. You move through the radiative zone, the sun's vast middle layer, where heat flows like a whisper, past hand to hand, atom to atom. The density here is immense. A cubic centimetre of solar material contains more matter than the air in a small room. But you continue. Not forward, not backward, just onward. And finally, after all that waiting, you reach the next threshold, the convective zone. Here, the texture of the sun changes. No longer a slow, random drift of energy, but a rolling, boiling movement, like a vast pot of water just beginning to simmer. Columns of hot gas rise from the inner depths, cool slightly near the surface, then sink again. This churning convection carries heat upward in great loops, faster than photons alone ever could. You become part of that motion now, carried upward, caught in a rising swell of plasma. You are not alone. Billions of other photons rise with you, each one born in a different moment, each one having taken a different path. Together, you move toward the surface. You are closer to freedom than you have ever been. As you near the photosphere, the visible surface of the sun, everything changes. The density drops, the collisions thin, the crowd begins to part. And then, in one quiet instant, you slip through. You escape the sun. This is the moment of emergence. You are no longer trapped. You are no longer scattered. For the first time in your long existence, you move freely, in a straight line, at the speed of light. What took you 100,000 years to rise now becomes a journey of just over 8 minutes, from the sun's surface to the earth's eye. And still, you remain unchanged. Light does not tire. It does not slow down. You speed through space, across a vacuum so empty, it can barely be called space at all. There are no atoms to slow you, no dust to absorb you, just distance and time. But you do not notice time. You are light. From Earth, no one sees your struggle. No one sees your long entanglement in the sun's depths. What they see is your arrival, a flash, a warmth, a gleam on a window pane, a shaft of light through a tree, a glint in a lover's eye. Your arrival is celebrated. Your journey is forgotten. And that is as it should be. Light does not ask for praise. It only offers itself. You might be one of the photons that helps a plant awaken. That triggers the tiny chemical reactions of photosynthesis, allowing a leaf to breathe, a tree to grow, a forest to thrive. Or you might strike the back of an eye, activating receptors that shape color and contrast, memory and mood. Or you might warm a stone, melt a snowflake, or turn a droplet to vapor. You do not choose, you simply land. And in doing so, you change things. You imagine this journey again not as a particle but as a feeling. You trace the path of a single ray of sunlight as it touches your skin in morning. You feel the time it took to arrive, the long entrapment, the patient rising, the final release. You understand now that even the simplest gift has a story inside it. And you remember that even light must learn to walk. The next time you close your eyes beneath the sun, remember the dance that led to that moment. A journey hidden inside every photon. A pilgrimage across layers of heat and matter, across time, across silence. And when you finally drift towards sleep, let the thought follow you. What else moves slowly, in secret, before it becomes light? You stand on solid ground and feel no motion. The world around you appears still, settled, rooted. But it isn't. You are moving fast. The earth beneath your feet is hurtling through space at nearly 30 kilometers every second, drawn in an endless fall around the sun. You are a passenger on a planet tracing a curve you cannot see, held not by ropes or walls, but by gravity. And that gravity is not a pull of force, it is a spell of geometry. The earth does not sit beside the sun. It spins around it in a grand ellipse, not perfectly circular, but nearly so, like a coin wobbling gently on its edge. This motion, this dance, is delicate. If the earth moved too slowly, it would fall into the sun and be consumed. If it moved too quickly, it would break free and drift into cold emptiness. But it moves just right, caught in the precise harmony, where falling becomes flight. You live inside this motion. Every moment of your life, you are swept along in this quiet whirl. You don't feel it, but everything you know, oceans, trees, buildings, breath, is inside a cradle of orbit, a golden prison, not cruel, not oppressive, but inescapable. This orbit gives you time. It creates seasons, as Earth tilts slightly on its axis, allowing different parts of the world to lean closer or further from the sun throughout the year. Summer arrives not because the Earth moves closer, but because it angles its face toward, but everything you know, oceans, trees, buildings, breath, is inside a cradle of orbit, a golden prison, not cruel, not oppressive, but inescapable. This orbit gives you time. It creates seasons, as Earth tilts slightly on its axis, allowing different parts of the world to lean closer or further from the sun throughout the year. Summer arrives not because the Earth moves closer, but because it angles its face toward the light. Winter comes when it leans away. The length of days, the shape of shadows, even the colors of the sky, all are drawn by this motion. And so, gravity becomes an artist. You see it not in equations, but in the way a leaf turns toward warmth, or the way snow melts on one side of a hill. You feel it in the tide that rises and recedes, in the hunger that follows longer nights, in the way animals sleep through cold months and stir when the light returns. The sun's pull is not only physical, it is psychological, biological, poetic. But gravity also holds Earth in place in a far more literal sense. The sun's mass is immense, 330,000 times that of Earth. It bends the very fabric of space around it, creating a well in which the planets roll like marbles. This curvature is not something you can touch, but you are inside it. Every movement the Earth makes is shaped by the invisible contours of space-time drawn by the sun's bulk. You imagine this curve now, not as a slope or a tunnel, but as a soft valley carved into silence. Earth glides along the edge, always falling inward, always missing. It is a balance of tension and freedom. Earth wants to fly away, but the sun will not let it go. This relationship is ancient. For 4.5 billion years, Earth has orbited the sun, turning steadily, spiraling gently through the galaxy. There is no friction in space to slow it down. There are no breaks, no barriers, only the constant, smooth persistence of motion. You think of the word orbit and realize it is not a circle, but a story of pursuit without capture. Earth does not touch the sun. It is always drawn to it, always curving toward it, but never arrives. This unfulfilled fall is what gives you your year, your calendar, your harvest, your rhythm. And yet, it is not entirely stable. Over deep time, Earth's orbit wobbles. It tilts, it shifts, it stretches and tightens. These subtle changes, called Milankovitch cycles, shape the timing of ice ages and the rise and fall of climates. The orbit is not a perfect path, it is alive with variation, with breath. You are not simply circling a fire, you are riding a pulse. And within that pulse lies everything. The sun gives energy, yes, but only to the worlds caught in its reach. Mercury, scorched. Venus, swathed in poison. Mars, cold and quiet. Each planet tells a different story about distance and warmth. Earth is the one that got it just right. You live in the habitable zone, where water can remain liquid, where ice can melt and air can move. This zone is narrow, a few million miles closer, and Earth would be baked. A few million miles farther, and it would freeze. You reside in a razor-thin corridor of comfort, carved not by chance, but by balance, and this balance depends on the orbit. You do not feel grateful every day. You shouldn't have to. The fact that Earth orbits as it does should not be a burden to remember. But on nights like this, when the world is quiet and the stars begin to flicker, you can feel it. A soft appreciation, a distant awareness. You are not spinning in chaos, you are moving in rhythm. Even the moon participates in this balance. It orbits Earth as Earth orbits the sun. A nested dance, stable and subtle. The moon's gravity slows Earth's rotation, anchors its tilt, shapes its tides. Without it, your seasons might wobble into disorder, your oceans might swell unpredictably, life as you know it might never have taken hold. You realize now that orbit is not a trap. It is an embrace. The sun's gravity is not a shackle. It is an offering, a way for planets to remain in motion without falling into despair. The sun keeps Earth close enough to nurture, far enough not to destroy. It is a dangerous kindness, and still, it will not last forever. Already, the sun is changing, slowly. It brightens a little each billion years. Its grip on Earth will shift. Its warmth will grow more intense. Eventually, this orbit will no longer protect you. It will lead Earth toward a fate no planet can avoid. But that is a story for another night. Tonight, you lie within the golden ring of Earth's quiet path. You do not fall, though you are always falling. You do not fly away, though the pull is constant. You float in balance, carried gently around a star that neither holds you too tight nor lets you go. At night, the sky seems still, but one light remains soft, rounded, familiar. The moon does not shine on its own. It is a quiet mirror, reflecting sunlight that has traveled from the heart of the sun through empty space, bounced from the moon's dust, and now, softly, into your eyes. What you see above you is not just the moon, it is sunlight in disguise. You stare at it, not thinking of the sun, but feeling it all the same. The moon is a cooled echo of fire. Its surface is grey and pitted, cold and dry, but in sunlight it glows like memory. It glows not from heat but from the light it cannot hold. The sun gives, and the moon reflects. You drift now above the moon's surface, weightless. The land below is silent, untouched by wind or weather. There is no atmosphere to stir the dust, no water to smooth the rocks. Every crater is a still wound, frozen in time, and yet the sun still touches it, not with warmth, but with clarity. The light here is harsh, unfiltered. Shadows are not soft. They are ink solid, absolute. When sunlight strikes the moon, it divides the world in two, light and dark, life and pause. On the day side, temperatures soar. Rocks blaze under the unfiltered blaze of solar radiation. But just beyond the terminator, the moving line between night and day, there is cold so deep it silences even thought. This contrast, this sudden drop into darkness, defines the moon's rhythm. Unlike Earth, the moon does not spin quickly. Its day lasts as long as a month, and because of tidal locking, the same face of the moon always looks toward Earth. There is a far side, a place you never see, a place where sunlight still falls, but never toward you. The moon is not half lit, it is fully lit over time, just not all at once. You begin to understand that the moon is not distant. It is part of Earth's balance. Its orbit, its phases, its presence in the night sky, each is shaped by the sun's light and Earth's pull. It is a link in the chain, a bridge between day and night. And sometimes, it stands in the way. You remember the eclipse, the strange hush that comes when the moon crosses in front of the sun. The sky dims, animals grow quiet, and shadows sharpen into slivers. For a moment, the world forgets its rhythm. Day becomes night in a blink, and all because one object, floating silently in space, blocks the fire behind it. An eclipse is geometry written in light. A perfect alignment. The sun, the moon, and Earth drawn into a single line. You stand in that shadow, feeling the sudden absence of heat. You see the sun's corona, its outer atmosphere flare around the moon like a crown of ghostly flame. It is one of the few times you can see the sun's edge without being blinded, and then it passes. The moon drifts on. The light returns. The moon is not a star. It is not a source. It is a keeper of time. It marks months, pulls tides, watches silently. In many cultures, the moon is a clock, a calendar, a quiet deity. Its phases have guided harvests, prayers, poems. It does not create, it reflects. It does not burn, it waits. You feel that in yourself too. Some days, you shine brightly, full, and sure. Other days, you are a sliver, or hidden, but always returning. Like the moon, you are not constant in light, but you are constant in return. From that distance, Earth is the bright one. Earth is the blue marble swirling with clouds, glowing with scattered light. The sun shines upon it fully. revealing its oceans, its forests, its pulse. From the moon, you see your own world as a satellite, spinning, shining, singing through space. And behind it always is the sun. You begin to notice how even shadow is shaped by light. The darkness you fear is not separate. It is carved by the presence of brightness. There is no shadow without a light to be blocked. The moon teaches you this. It holds space for both. It reflects enough light to soften your nights, but enough shadow to invite stillness. You lie in bed, letting this rhythm hold you. The slow turning, the steady waning and waxing. The drift of light across dust. You feel yourself as part of it, not above, not below, but within. The same sunlight that shaped the moon shapes you. The same gravity that holds it close holds your tides, your sleep, your dreams. And you remember that the moon, too, is changing. Its distance from Earth increases slowly, a few centimeters each year. One day, it will no longer cause eclipses. Its perfect fit will no longer align. The shadow it casts will shrink. The poetry will remain, but the spectacle will fade. But not yet. Tonight, it glows, reflecting a journey it never began, but continues. You close your eyes and see that soft light still. You understand now that sunlight is not always golden. Sometimes it is silver. Sometimes it is only the shape of a shadow. And just beyond that shadow, something else stirs in the sky. The sun does not only shine, it exhales. You feel it not as warmth on your skin, but as a silent tide sweeping through space. This is not the light you see at dawn, or the heat that melts snow. This is something older, wilder, a wind that carries no scent, no sound, no rain. A stream of charged particles hurled out from the sun's surface in every direction. A river of atoms stripped of electrons, flowing forever outward. The solar wind, it is invisible, but it is everywhere. Right now, as you lie still, the solar wind is passing through you, skimming Earth's magnetic field, bending around it like a stream flowing past a stone. You are sheltered by this field, by the magnetic cloak your planet generates deep within its molten core. Without it, the wind would strip away the atmosphere, peel off the sky. Mars once had such protection, but lost it, and with it, the breath of its air. But Earth holds firm. The solar wind is born in the sun's corona, the outermost part of its atmosphere. It is a place of paradox, far from the core, yet hotter than the surface. Here, magnetic lines twist and snap, releasing jets of energy that fling particles into space at hundreds of kilometers per second. They are small protons, electrons, helium nuclei, but their numbers are vast. And they do not stop. You imagine the sun not as a calm orb in the sky, but as a storm of fire constantly reaching outward, not with arms, but with breath, not to destroy, but because it cannot help itself. This is how it lives. This is how it dies slowly, outward. You drift alongside this wind now. You are not pushed, you are carried, past Mercury, where the wind scorches without mercy, past Venus, where it hisses against a thick and toxic sky, and toward Earth, where the field pushes back, forming a bow shock, a curved shield like the front of a ship parting waves. Here, the wind is deflected, guided, redirected toward the poles. You follow it to the north, through night, through cold, where the charged particles spiral downward into Earth's upper atmosphere, crashing into oxygen and nitrogen, exciting them, coloring them. This is where the sky becomes ghostly, where invisible becomes visible. Aurora. A curtain of light shimmers above a sleeping forest. Greens ripple into purples, blues fold into red. You watch it dance across the horizon like breath made visible. The sky has become a mirror of motion. And though it feels like magic, it is simply science painted in wonder. This is the result of solar wind, a storm made beautiful, a side effect of radiation made tender. You realize now that space is not empty. It is full of motion you cannot see, full of collisions you never feel, full of whispers you were never taught to listen to. The sun's breath touches everything. It moves comets' tails, reshapes planetary atmospheres, bends the edges of space where the wind finally slows and stops, at the outer boundary of the solar system. It defines the heliosphere, the vast bubble that the sun blows into the galaxy. Inside, its wind rules. Outside, other stars hold sway. The edge is far, beyond Pluto, beyond memory, beyond light that has touched Earth, and yet it exists, moving outward still. Back on Earth, you lie still under the magnetic veil. The field bends and stretches, responding to every solar sigh. During storms, it shudders. Satellites blink, power lines hum. But the field holds, and beneath it, life endures. Some particles slip through, some reach the surface. They are tiny, but they carry energy. Over time, they can affect circuits, alter data, damage cells. But your body is adapted. Your world is buffered. The Earth shields its own. You wonder now, what would it feel like to be exposed? To drift without a magnetic field, with no barrier, no cloak, you would feel nothing. The wind is too thin to touch. But your cells would change. Your atoms would shift. You would carry the wind inside you like a slow unraveling. But Earth holds you close. Even when the solar wind surges during coronal mass ejections, when vast clouds of plasma are hurled from the sun, the planet's shield flares brighter. Auroras stretch farther south. The air sings. And then quiet returns. You return to that idea again. The sun breathes, not like you, not in or out, but always. Its breath is not air, it is energy. Not rhythm, it is expansion. And everything in its path is shaped. The solar wind does not stop. Even when the sun is quiet, between sunspots and flares, the wind continues. A slow, steady push into the void. And when you sleep, it does not pause. When you wake, it is still there. When you feel the warmth of the morning, know that something deeper has already arrived. Not light, not heat, but the unseen current of a wind that began before you were born and will continue long after you are gone. You close your eyes and picture it now, a wind that carries no leaves, no sound, no scent. Only the memory of the sun's restlessness. You imagine the way it shapes planets, the way it sculpts silence into motion, the way it turns air into art. And far beyond, at the edge of that wind, something else begins to stir. The sun does not rage, it does not roar, it does not cry out, but still, it changes. You cannot see it with your eyes, or feel it in a single breath, but deep within its core, something has shifted. Hydrogen, the fuel of fusion, grows scarce. The balance it has held for billions of years begins to lean, ever so slightly, ever so slowly. And from that slight tilt, a transformation begins. The sun brightens. Not with fire, but with hunger. To keep its energy steady as fuel thins, it works harder, it fuses faster. The temperature in its core rises. Helium accumulates where hydrogen once ruled, and as the reactions speed, the outer layers respond. They swell. This swelling is not an explosion. It is a deep, slow sigh. The sun begins to puff outward, inch by inch, year by year. Over the course of hundreds of millions of years, it grows. Not like a balloon, but like a tree widening its trunk. Quiet, relentless. And as it does, the light it sends changes. You may not notice. Your days still begin with golden warmth. Your plants still reach toward morning. But somewhere in the soil, in the oceans, in the ice, the change has begun. The heat lingers a little longer. The cool of night retreats a little faster. The balance of life begins to shift. You walk across familiar ground, but it is drier. Trees drop leaves early. Rivers shrink. Lakes become memories. The seasons stretch into strange shapes. Summers lengthen. Winters soften. Rain becomes rarer. Drought becomes the norm. The sun does not mean harm, but its gift becomes heavy. You feel it in the air, the way heat clings to skin, the way nights fail to cool, the way storms arrive with sharp, erratic force. The planet is not falling apart, but it is out of step. Like a song played slightly too fast. There is still rhythm, but the pace is off. Insects hatch early and die without food. Birds migrate to empty places. Flowers bloom too soon, and frost kills their promise. The web of life, so finely tuned to temperature and light, begins to fray. You trace this unraveling back not to the earth, but to the sun. Its brightness has increased by just a few percent, but enough. Enough to tip a system that once danced with precision. Enough to turn growth into retreat. Enough to turn cool forests into grassland. Grassland into sand. You lie beneath the sky and feel it pulse. The light is not angry, but it is louder. It pushes more urgently through clouds. It bleaches rock and skin. It creates more evaporation, more pressure, more heat. The air grows thicker. The weather grows strange. And the oceans rise not only because of melting ice, but because warm water expands. Coasts change shape. Islands vanish. Cities adapt, then struggle, then fall. And still, the sun grows. It does not notice. It is not watching. You understand now that this is not punishment. It is physics. It is the inevitable response of a star trying to keep its fire alive. And though the changes are slow, they are steady. They do not reverse. They do not rest. You walk through landscapes turning to stone. Grass that once bent underfoot, now crunches. The breeze carries more dust than scent. Creatures seek higher ground, deeper shade, longer sleep. And above it all, the sun shines on, brilliant and blind. You look up and cannot stare. Its light is too direct. It casts no kindness. Shadows shrink, eyes narrow. You wear layers to protect your skin from the light that once gave you joy. Crops fail, wells run dry, deserts expand. The earth is not dying, it is adapting. But its pace is slow and the sun's is not. Life must keep up or fall behind. You begin to wonder if the sun remembers when it was gentler, when its light coaxed forests from the soil and warmed the backs of creatures learning to walk upright. But the sun does not remember. It only continues. Its heat now radiates farther. The inner planets feel it most. Mercury blisters, Venus boils, Earth begins to shimmer at the edges. Not immediately, not all at once, but the path is drawn. You sleep, but not as deeply. The nights are warm, the darkness is thinner. The stillness carries a hum. Your body sweats even in shade. You dream of green, but wake in gold. And still, the sun is not done. Its mass remains the same, but its size will grow. The expansion has begun. Over the coming hundreds of millions of years, it will double, then triple in diameter. The orbit of the Earth may not save it. The warmth will become fire. The sky will lose its blue. But for now, you still live within it. You still wake beneath its light. You still eat food grown in its glow. You still smile at sunsets and turn your face toward warmth. The beauty remains, but the balance is shifting. The sun is aging. Slowly, quietly, its heart is changing. And in that change, everything it touches begins to change as well. The next time you feel its light on your skin, you might ask, is this the same light I knew? Or is this the beginning of something heavier? The world does not wake all at once. It stirs, slowly. It stretches beneath a warming sky. The mornings arrive sooner, with less mist, fewer frost-covered leaves, and no silence left in the wind. Where once there was stillness in the shadows, now there is only heat. Even before the day begins, the air carries a hum of warmth that does not belong. You lie beneath it, eyes closed, sensing something subtle has been lost. A kind of permission to be still, to sleep deeply, to cool. The cold is leaving, not in a rush, not with fury, but steadily, like an old companion walking away without a word. Ice once covered vast lands. It held the shape of mountains, carved rivers, and kept time in stillness. Now, it drips. Meltwater traces the backs of glaciers like tears. Sheets that once stretched for miles have thinned, cracked, pulled back. Their retreat is not theatrical. It is quiet, but it is final. You walk where ice once lived. The ground is raw, littered with stone once hidden under frozen weight. The air above it is warmer. Not warm, but changed. The seasons arrive out of rhythm. Winter forgets its own name. Spring hurries past itself. Animals that once hibernated stir too soon. Others don't stir at all. The balance between heat and rest, between growth and pause, is broken. Cold is not the absence of light. It is its soft resistance. A necessary counterpoint. Without it, the planet cannot breathe evenly. Without it, the nights become too thin to hold dreams. In the far north, where ice has ruled for tens of thousands of years, ancient permafrost begins to release its grip. Soil that has not moved since the mammoths walked now shifts. Gases escape: methane, carbon dioxide released into an atmosphere already full. You can't see them, but the earth exhales heavier now. What was locked beneath stillness awakens, and it adds fuel to the fire above. The oceans shimmer with warmth. They expand, rise, encroach. Coastlines soften and sink. Coral reefs, sensitive and vivid, bleach and vanish beneath the surface. The sea remembers ice, but the memory is fading. Where ice shelves once held the tide in check, only salt water remains, pressing inland, swallowing marshes, forests, entire histories. And at night, something else changes. The darkness does not feel the same. It no longer cools the day as it used to. Nights are shorter, and when they come, they are restless. Cities glow, yes, but even in the wild, the warmth lingers. Your body, once soothed by the dip in temperature, now tosses in the heat. Sleep, like ice, begins to retreat. Creatures that relied on the rhythm of cold nights, the deep slumber of winter, the chilled air of dawn begin to fade. Amphibians leave their ponds too early. Bears wake confused. Birds fly at the wrong time, towards food that hasn't bloomed. Everything moves out of time, like an orchestra missing its conductor. You feel it in yourself. The nights don't hold you like they used to. The stars shine, but the air does not refresh. You wake too soon, or sleep too long, and always with that thin layer of sweat, like a memory of discomfort clinging to your skin. The sun, of course, does not know. It simply continues. Its brightness, once life-giving, becomes a burden. Its light, once praised, begins to press down. It isn't cruel. It is indifferent. It has no thoughts. But its changes bring consequence, and the earth is not keeping up. Even the poles, where cold has always ruled, begin to drip. The Arctic thins. The Antarctic cracks. Great towers of ancient ice carve into the sea. These are not moments, they are centuries in motion. You watch a time-lapse of a world warming. It moves too slowly to see in a single day, but too quickly to ignore. Cold is not only temperature, it is time. It slows things down, holds them in place, gives pause. Without it, life speeds up, and not always in ways that help. Growth comes too fast. Insects thrive in the heat and spread disease. Crops struggle to root in dry soil. Fires start sooner, last longer, burn wilder. The quiet guardians of coolness, clouds, forests, glaciers begin to fall. You remember when ice was everywhere. In freezers, in rivers, on windowsills, in stories, in metaphors. Now it becomes a luxury. Something you have to search for. Something that once was. And without cold, sleep changes. Sleep is not just rest, it is regulation. The cooling of the body signals the brain. Darkness deepens the breath, but as the warmth lingers into night, the cycle breaks. Insomnia blooms, dreams scatter. The body does not forget how to sleep, but it forgets when. You lie still and feel the weight of light long after the sun has gone. You wonder how many other creatures feel this too. How many plants have missed the signal to bloom? How many trees have dropped their leaves at the wrong time? How many waters no longer freeze, no longer carry the stillness of waiting? The earth was built for pause. Now, it rushes forward without breath. But the sun does not stop. Its energy increases, drop by drop. Each photon carries just a little more heat. Each day adds to a rising curve. And while the planet still spins, still turns, still tries to keep pace, the systems that held sleep and cold in place begin to unravel. This is not an end, but it is a warning. The death of ice is not loud. It is not a crash. It is a drip, a soft, slow vanishing, and with it goes the coolness that once wrapped the planet in rhythm. Without cold, the night cannot do its work. Without sleep, the body cannot remember how to heal. You watch it from your bed, a night too warm, a breeze too soft, a silence that feels unfamiliar. And far above, in the brightness that never rests, the sun swells a little more. You wake beneath a sky that feels wrong. It is not stormy. It is not dark. It is too bright. Not just in color, but in weight. The light presses down instead of opening up. There is no softness to it. The blue that once stretched gently across the day has begun to fade. In its place is a harsh whiteness, flat, overwhelming, and endless, the color of overexposure, of saturation, of heat made visible. The sky is not broken. It is still there. It still holds clouds and wind and birds, but it has lost something. The deep, calm blue you once took for granted is dissolving under the weight of intensified sunlight. As the sun swells and brightens with age, the atmosphere begins to shift. Its gases thin, its upper layers are peeled away by solar wind and time, and with that change comes a loss of filtering, a loss of the scattered light that once made the sky feel like a safe place to look. Blue is a color born from scattering. When sunlight hits Earth's atmosphere, the shorter, higher energy blue wavelengths are scattered more than the longer reds. This scattering fills the sky with gentle color. But as the sun grows stronger, that balance is disturbed. The scattering weakens, the light overwhelms, the sky begins to whiten. You notice it first in the afternoon when the sun is highest, when shadows are shortest, when everything feels still. The blue is washed out. The clouds no longer pop against it. They dissolve into the same pale field. The horizon glows with a white heat that no longer softens into haze. You squint more often. You look away more quickly. Your body, without realizing it, tries to hide. The oceans feel it too. They shimmer unnaturally. The surface temperature climbs past familiar limits. Evaporation accelerates. More water rises into the air, but the air cannot hold it all. Rain becomes intense and rare. Storms grow larger but less frequent. The sky loses its rhythm, its ability to surprise you with a passing breeze or a gentle downpour. Plants wither under this light, not from lack of sunlight, but from too much of it. Photosynthesis, the engine of green life, begins to falter under excess radiation. Leaves scorch, roots dry, the balance tips. What once grew in abundance now strains to survive. Forests thin, meadows brown, color fades, and the sky continues to burn pale above it all. You remember a time when sunsets were stories, gold turning to crimson, then violet, then indigo. A slow gradient that invited you to pause, to breathe. Now the sun sinks quickly, swallowed by the brightness around it. Dusk comes without beauty, just dimness. The clouds catch no fire. The horizon holds no mystery. It simply lowers into whiteness, then grey. Your skin reacts differently now too. The UV radiation, once filtered by a robust ozone layer, begins to reach you more directly. You burn faster. Your eyes water. Even in the shade, the heat reflects from surfaces with a persistence that feels unnatural. There is no true refuge during the day. You find yourself waiting for night, but even night arrives too warm, too delayed, and without its full darkness. You used to associate brightness with clarity, with vision, with hope. But now the light blurs things. It flattens landscapes. It erases depth. What was once beautiful and defined becomes washed out and harsh. Like a photograph exposed too long, the world around you starts to lose its detail. The birds notice. Their migratory patterns shift. Some stop flying altogether. Their calls become fewer, their silhouettes less frequent against the pale canvas. You begin to realize how much life depends on the subtle cues of color and contrast. When those cues vanish, instinct wavers. Habits break, species lose their place. The insects thrive at first, drawn to warmth, undeterred by the light. But even they begin to thin as ecosystems collapse around them. Pollination falters. Crops yield less. The chain of life begins to falter, not with noise, but with quiet. The silence of missing wings, the absence of song at dusk. The blue sky once held promise. It was a canvas for dreams, for poetry, for memory. Children drew it without thinking. Painters washed it gently behind every landscape. It was the backdrop of all your ordinary days. And now, it is leaving. It doesn't disappear suddenly. It just grows fainter each year, lighter, whiter, until one day someone looks up and can't remember what blue looked like. Not fully. Only in photos, only in stories. The new sky becomes a different kind of normal one that feels harsher, lonelier, less alive. You lie still and let your memory trace back to the last blue sky you remember vividly. A clear day, cool air, the kind of light that felt almost edible, soft and thick and full of colour. That sky was a shelter. This one is a flood. And yet, above it all, the sun still shines, brighter than ever, not out of anger, not out of cruelty, but because it is old, aging stars grow. They burn more fiercely to sustain themselves. Their fusion races faster, their light intensifies. This is not rage, it is biology on a stellar scale. But Earth is not built for this brightness. The planet was shaped for balance, for a soft blue sky that filtered just enough, allowed just enough, protected just enough. Without that blue, the rest begins to unravel. And somewhere within you, something shifts as well. Your dreams, once coloured in vivid hues, begin to pale. Your thoughts, once soothed by the colour of the sky, stretch under a white weight. You begin to understand that light is not always gentle, that too much clarity becomes blindness, that even the sun, giver of life, can become something else, not all at once, but gradually. And beyond the white horizon, as oceans simmer and forests recede, the plants grow quieter still. You enter a forest and it does not greet you. The usual hush is there, the hush of leaves, of distant wings, of wind through branches, but beneath it lies a deeper stillness, one you cannot name at first. Then, as you move between the trunks and feel the warmth pressed against your skin, you begin to understand. The trees are quiet, not just in sound, but in presence. They are no longer stretching, no longer pulsing with breath. They are waiting, or perhaps they are giving up. Light once called them to life. The sun's rays touched their leaves and triggered a miracle photosynthesis. The slow, silent weaving of carbon and water into sugars, into growth, into strength. This process has shaped Earth's surface, filled the atmosphere with oxygen, sustained nearly every creature that walks, swims, or flies. But now, the light is too strong, and the miracle begins to stall. You notice it first in the leaves. They are thinner, their green dull to grey. Many are curled at the edges, or mottled with sunburn, or brittle to the touch. They tremble not from breeze, but from the weight of light. Some fall too soon, skipping the ceremony of autumn. Others cling past their time, unable to let go. The rhythm is broken. Photosynthesis requires balance. It depends on just enough sunlight, just enough water, just the right temperature. It is a process as delicate as breath and as essential. But under this swollen Sunday, that balance falters. The heat dries the air, the soil cracks, the stomata tiny pores on the leaves begin to close, trying to preserve moisture. But when they close, they also shut out carbon dioxide, and without that, photosynthesis stops. You move deeper into the woods, or what used to be woods. The canopy is thinner now. Light falls straight to the ground, unchecked by shade. Ferns that once curled gently in damp corners are withered. Mosses have browned, vines cling to dead branches, searching for softness, and the silence continues. Birdsong, once woven through the trees like thread, has grown faint. Many birds have gone. Insects too. Without plants to feed on or hide within, they migrate elsewhere or vanish altogether. You feel the absence of their motion, their hum. Even the bees, tireless in their work, seem hesitant now, hovering without direction, lost among the stillness. You kneel beside a young sapling and press your hand to its slender trunk. It is warm, too warm. The bark feels dry. Its roots cannot reach the water they need. The sunlight that should have fed it has become too direct, too fierce. This is not nourishment, it is erosion, not of soil, but of life's ability to respond. Trees that have stood for centuries begin to lose their strength. Their rings, once thick with the memory of wet years, begin to narrow. Some fall, not from storms, but from slow exhaustion. Others remain standing, hollowed, brittle, monuments to a past rhythm now interrupted. The forests are not the only ones suffering. Croplands feel it too. Wheat, corn, rice, all shaped by generations of cultivation, now struggle to yield. The seeds sprout, but the shoots die young, or they ripen too quickly, without fullness. The seasons come too fast, or too dry, or too confused. Farmers adapt, adjust, hope, but the pattern of the sun has changed, and with it the pattern of survival. You remember that plants do not move. They cannot run from heat or seek shade. They remain rooted, dependent on memory, adaptation, resilience. But even resilience has limits. And the sun, in its aging brilliance, has forgotten them. It still shines, more than ever. Its light still pours over the land. But that light has shifted from invitation to insistence, from a whisper to a demand. And plants, once fluent in the language of light, now grow silent. They do not respond. They cannot. You pause beneath a tree that still stands. Its branches stretch above you like ribs. Its leaves flicker in the wind, but without joy. You can almost hear its breath shallow, laboured, measured. You want to believe it will survive, that nature will bend without breaking. But around you, the evidence suggests otherwise. In rainforests, trees fall faster than they grow. In grasslands, the green fades to gold, then to brown. In wetlands, reeds dry before birds can nest. In tundras, shrubs replace moss. Everywhere, the green world shrinks, and with it, the systems that filter air, that hold soil, that store water, that breathe for the planet. Oxygen still flows, but the future holds uncertainty. What happens when the forest forgets how to speak, when chlorophyll fades, when the balance tips too far and can no longer be caught? The sun does not know. It burns on. Its fusion continues. At its core, hydrogen dwindles and helium builds. The reactions speed. The brightness grows. And all across Earth, plants begin to fold inward, unable to adjust in time. You remember the beauty of a sun-dappled leaf, the way it glowed from within, lit by both the sun and its own quiet work. Now, you look, and the glow is missing. The shape is the same, but the life inside it dims. And still, you lie beneath this sky, surrounded by green things trying to remember how to live. They have not given up, not yet, but they speak more softly. Their growth is hesitant, their strength hard-won. You breathe in. The air is still sweet, but thinner, somehow, tired. And above you, the sun climbs higher. You leave the fading green of Earth behind and drift inward, toward the sun. The light grows harsher with every passing mile, until it no longer warms, it burns. You pass through invisible lines of orbit, each one a memory of balance, of distance, of time. And then you see it, small, scorched, fast, alone, Mercury. It is the sun's closest companion, locked in the tightest orbit, circling at high speed through searing radiation, a planet without clouds, without air, without shelter. Its surface is cratered and cracked, like the skin of something long punished. Here, day and night mean extremes. The side that faces the sun scorches to temperatures hot enough to melt lead. The side turned away freezes to hundreds of degrees below zero. There is no atmosphere to smooth the edge between fire and frost, only silence. You drift closer. The landscape unfolds in greys and shadows. Valleys carved not by water, but by time and heat. Ridges stretched by the slow contraction of a cooling core. And on every rock, the sun's presence is absolute. The sky here is black even at noon. The sun hangs enormous overhead, more than twice the size it appears from Earth, and its glare is unfiltered, merciless. Mercury turns slowly. A single day lasts longer than a single year. It spins 3 times for every 2 orbits it completes. This strange rhythm means some parts of the surface bake under sunlight for what feels like eternity, while others wait in darkness for a dawn that never hurries. The planet doesn't complain. It has no voice. But you can almost feel the tension in its orbit, the way it clings to motion, to avoid falling in. It is tidally tugged by the sun's gravity, stretched by it, held by it. Mercury's orbit is not a circle. It is a long, drawn-out ellipse, one edge swinging dangerously close to the solar furnace. And over time, that path changes. It precesses a slow drift in space, like a coin spiraling on a table. A wobble that tells of deeper forces at work. You understand now that Mercury is a warning. It shows you what it means to live too close to the fire. To orbit too near something that does not slow, does not rest, does not notice. Mercury survives only because it moves fast enough to avoid being pulled in. For now. But the sun is swelling. The line that once marked safety is shifting. The furnace expands. There will come a time when this orbit will not be enough, when the swelling Sunday will reach out just far enough to brush Mercury's edge. At first, it will graze the outermost peaks. Then, it will lick the valleys. And then it will take everything. The planet will be drawn in, swallowed by light and heat. It will not explode. It will vanish, absorbed by a star too large to ignore. You pause and consider that moment, the disappearance of an entire world. A world that has spun faithfully for billions of years, completed billions of orbits, never held water or life, but still existed, still mattered. And then, in an instant stretched over thousands of years, it will be gone, one planet less. The solar system will not flinch, the sun will not notice, but the balance will shift. Venus will become the innermost world, and Earth, if it still exists, will feel the difference in the sky. You drift across Mercury's surface one last time. You imagine what it must be like to stand here in those final years. The sky white with sunlight, the ground vibrating with heat, no breeze, no voice. Just the pressure of a Sunday too near, too loud, the light so strong that even shadows begin to fail. It is strange, you think, how a planet can orbit faithfully for so long and still be lost. How motion cannot always save you. How even the fastest dancer in the solar ballet eventually runs out of floor. And yet, Mercury continues. For now, it moves. It spins. It reflects sunlight from its battered crust. Its gravity still tugs at passing comets, still plays its role in the grand arrangement of things. There is dignity in that persistence, even as the end draws near. You drift farther from its surface now, turning back toward the sun. You feel its pull grow stronger. The space between Mercury and the star is not large, but it feels final. You understand that no world lives long, so close to a burning god. Mercury will go first, that is certain, but it will not go alone. From far above, Earth still looks familiar, a blue sphere veiled in white cloud, spinning softly in space. But the blue has faded, the clouds have thinned, the outline remains, but the life inside it has begun to dim. You hover beyond the orbit of the moon now, far enough to see the curve of the planet but close enough to feel its history, and you know what's coming. The sun has grown. What was once a distant guardian has become an encroaching tide. Its brightness is no longer nourishing. It overwhelms. The light strikes Earth not with warmth, but with weight. The oceans vast, ancient no longer sparkle. They boil, slowly at first, then relentlessly. Steam rises in columns. The sky thickens, then thins. Rain no longer falls. Clouds dissolve into glare. The atmosphere begins to drift upward, not in wind or storm, but molecule by molecule. The solar wind tears at the upper layers of air. Hydrogen escapes into space. Oxygen follows. Without a magnetic field strong enough to hold it, without enough gravity to shield it from a star this large, the sky begins to leak. You watch continents dry out and crack. Rivers vanish into dust. Forests become ash, then nothing. Mountain ranges, those ancient vertebrae of Earth's back, soften at their peaks. The crust warms, then warps. Plate boundaries grind against each other more slowly now, but with deeper tension. Beneath the surface, the mantle churns harder as the planet's balance breaks. There are no cities anymore, no signals from the surface, no light that isn't from the sun. Life, in all its cleverness, has left or fallen silent. You imagine it tried to endure, to burrow, to adapt. But even the deepest oceans have boiled away. Even the darkest caves have been touched by heat. Even the air itself has abandoned the earth. There is no grand explosion, no final shatter, just an exhale. Earth's final breath is invisible, a release of vapor, of gas, of molecules that once formed leaves, lungs, laughter, all carried upward, all erased by radiation. The silence is complete, not because nothing is happening, but because everything has ended slowly enough to seem quiet. You drift closer, passing through what used to be the thermosphere, where auroras once danced. Now, only scattered particles spiral outward, caught in the wake of a dying sky. You enter the mesosphere, the stratosphere layers that once held weather, jet streams, migrations. Now, there is only light. The surface is unrecognizable. No oceans, no ice, no green. Only crust broken open in places, glowing faintly. The heat radiates from below, not in flame, but in tension. The planet does not shatter, it peels. It unravels in silence, like a shell pulled away from within, and still, the Earth spins. Even in its final hours, it turns, slowly, predictably, a last gesture of loyalty to the system that shaped it. Day follows night, though neither exists anymore in the way you once knew them. There is no atmosphere to bend light into sunset, no water to reflect dawn, only direct glare and shadow, switching places across a ruined sphere. You try to find landmarks, continents, mountains, familiar shapes, but erosion and heat have blurred them. The tectonic scars are deeper now, the crust fractured and warped. Earth has become a planet again, not a home, a rock in orbit. Beautiful, but broken. Then something shifts. The sun, still growing, begins to swell more quickly. Its edges ripple. The boundary between star and sky dissolves, and Earth, still trying to hold its place, begins to fall inward. Not quickly, not all at once, but the drag increases, the heat deepens. The orbit begins to spiral. From this distance, you do not see fire. You see brightness, a glow that consumes everything around it. The sun has become a red giant, vast, bloated, pulsing with fusion. It reaches outward, not like a flame, but like a tide, slow, sure, irresistible. Earth's shadow begins to shrink. Once, it cast long shadows on the moon, on satellites, on clouds. Now, the light leaves nowhere for shadow to hide. The darkness that once defined shape and place begins to vanish. You watch as the outline of the Earth softens, loses distinction, glows faintly at its edges, then brightens, then blurs. The planet does not fall into the sun in a crash. It is absorbed, slowly, like a stone dropped into thick honey. First, the outer crust glows, then it vaporizes. The core, dense and defiant, lasts longer. But even it begins to melt, under the pressure of a star that has forgotten to stop giving. And then there is nothing. No orbit, no Earth, no shadow. Only the memory of a planet that once turned gently in the light, now folded into the very fire that sustained it. You do not cry. There is no pain. Only stillness. The kind that comes after something ancient has ended. You feel the absence more than the loss. A quiet, where once there was rhythm. A silence where once there was song. And above it all, the sun continues. One planet down, more to come. Venus gleams in the sky like a silent jewel, bright and serene to the distant eye. From Earth, it was once the morning star, the evening lantern, soft, radiant, beautiful. It appeared in the sky with reliable grace, whispering symmetry and rhythm. For centuries you looked toward it with wonder, not knowing what slept beneath its clouds. But now, with Earth behind you and the sun swelling before you, you turn to Venus, not as a light in the sky, but as a destination, and as you approach, the beauty becomes a deception. Venus is not soft, it is not calm, it is not kind. It is a furnace behind a veil, a planet wrapped in clouds thick with acid and silence. The air is poison, the pressure is crushing. The heat never lifts, and yet it waits, still orbiting, still enduring, as the sun expands inch by inch toward it. You begin to descend, falling slowly into the upper atmosphere. At first, there is light. The sun shines through the uppermost clouds, scattered across the tops like golden dust. The winds here move fast, hundreds of kilometers per hour, racing around the planet in a constant chaotic swirl. But the light cannot reach far. The clouds grow dense, yellow, sulphurous. They thicken with every meter. You drop beneath them, and the world changes. There is no sky, no horizon, only haze, endless and yellow-grey. The air presses in from all sides, 90 times denser than Earth's. Breathing is not just impossible, it's unthinkable. Even machinery struggles here. The temperature already climbs past 400 degrees Celsius. And you haven't reached the surface yet. The heat does not come from within the planet. It comes from above, from the sun. Once, Venus might have been different, perhaps even temperate. There are signs, evidence of ancient rivers, basins that may have once held oceans, volcanoes shaped like islands, but all of it changed in slow motion. The water rose into the air trapped the sun's light, and with every ray, the temperature rose, until the water could no longer return. The oceans boiled into sky, the sky sealed in the heat, the loop closed. You drift lower. The clouds now glow not with scattered sunlight, but with the constant backlight of a planet that never sleeps. There are no nights here, only an eternal amber, no darkness to cool the stone, no rain to soothe it. The terrain below grows clearer. It is dry, dead, cracked, flat in some places, mountainous in others, all shaped by volcanic pressure and time. There are no rivers, no erosion, only collapse. Venus spins so slowly that a day here lasts longer than a year. Its rotation is retrograde, spinning opposite most other planets. This strange rhythm means that sunrise and sunset are more myth than event. Time crawls, like light through a thick lens. A person standing on the surface would see the sun move across the sky at a snail's pace, its glow never relenting. And yet, beneath all this, Venus is not still. There are quakes, tremors in the stone. The planet is not tectonically active like Earth, but the surface shifts. Vast volcanic plains stretch for thousands of kilometers. Shield volcanoes, collapsed domes, circular ridges, all formed from pressure that built and broke without the help of water or wind. The land here does not erode, it preserves. Venus remembers everything. You hover above Maxwell Montes, the tallest mountain range on the planet, and you wonder what it saw. Perhaps it watched the last raindrop fall. Perhaps it once knew clouds made of water. Perhaps not. No one knows for certain. Venus's past is buried beneath layers too hostile to uncover. Even robotic probes last only minutes here. The Soviet Venera landers touched down in the 1970s and 1980s, sending back brief images of cracked rocks and endless stone. They failed not because of violence, but because of certainty. The planet's heat is not a flame, it is a fact, a guarantee that nothing survives for long. You drift across Lavinia Planitia, a vast, low-lying plain covered in basalt. It stretches like a scar, unchanging, untouched. The surface here has been melted and reshaped countless times, smoothed by lava, not by water. You see craters, but fewer than expected. Venus's atmosphere is so dense that smaller meteors burn up before impact. Only the largest reach the ground. Even destruction here is filtered. You begin to feel the weight of time differently. Venus is not a place of sudden ruin. It is a place of slow surrender. A planet that did not explode but boiled. That did not shatter but thickened. Its death is not loud. It is quiet. It is ongoing. Above you, the sun is now huge, red, close. It looms in the sky like a wound. Its light pierces the clouds more strongly than ever. Venus is already hot, but it grows hotter still. The upper atmosphere, once racing with winds, begins to thin. The weight of radiation increases. Molecules break apart. The carbon dioxide thickens. The sulfur thickens. The winds begin to slow. At the surface, the rocks begin to change, melting, not suddenly, not like lava, but softening, flowing. Even stone has limits. Venus begins to sag, to bubble, to sink under its own skin. There is no water left to carry the heat away. There is no air left to catch it. Only rock, absorbing the sun's final offering. And yet, the planet remains in orbit. The sun has taken Mercury. It has taken Earth. But Venus resists. Not out of defiance, but because of timing. It spins slowly, caught just beyond the edge of the sun's swollen reach. But that reach is growing. Each year, the sun expands outward, stretching its photosphere in a final effort to remain stable. The edge flickers, the brightness increases. You watch as the atmosphere begins to drift upward. Molecules escape. The gravitational hold weakens. Venus starts to leak into space, its air, its heat, its memory. It loses itself molecule by molecule, rising into the corona, the bright edge of the star that refuses to rest. Eventually, the line is crossed. The red giant envelops the orbit. Venus is swallowed, not in a flash, but in stages. First the outer layers, then the surface, then the core. The planet does not break apart. It is absorbed. Its mass folds into the sun's. Its orbit ends. Its shadow vanishes. You think of Venus as it once was, a sister to Earth, a twin, so similar in size, in mass, in ingredients, but a few million kilometers closer to the sun, a small difference. And from that difference came silence. You drift through the space where Venus once turned. There is no trace, no echo, only heat. The Sunday glows larger now, empty of its children, fat with their remains. And somewhere inside that fire, something breaks. You hover now at the edge of something ancient, something ending. The sun is no longer the star you once knew. It has swollen to fill the inner solar system, casting off the golden light of youth for a deeper, blood-red burn. Its surface pulses like breath, and the space around it glows not with warmth but with warning. You feel it before you see it. This is the threshold. The moment when the sun forgets how to hold itself together. It doesn't begin with an explosion. There is no flash, no sound, just a slow unraveling. For billions of years, the sun maintained a careful balanced gravity, pulling inward, fusion pushing outward. But now, with its core starved of hydrogen, that balance is breaking. Helium, once a product of fusion, now becomes its fuel. It burns in shells around the contracting core, triggering new layers of fire. But helium is less forgiving than hydrogen. It burns hotter, faster, less stably. The sun begins to swell in pulses, each wave lifting its outer layers higher into space. It becomes an engine of release. You drift close enough to see its surface. It is no longer smooth. It seethes. Great arcs of plasma loop into the void, millions of kilometers high, folding and twisting in slow motion. Solar flares snap and ripple like lightning caught in syrup. You can feel their energy even at a distance. The solar wind, once a steady breath, has become a storm, a torrent of particles flooding space, stripping away what remains of nearby dust and debris. Where once the planets orbited, there is now only light. Mercury was the first to go. Venus followed. Earth, too, has already surrendered, its crust melted, its memory erased. The sun has absorbed them not with fury, but with hunger, a soft, slow consumption. They spiraled inward, drawn by expanding gravity and collapsing space. Not all at once, but piece by piece. The sun took them the way fire takes paper quietly, then completely. And still it grows. The outer layers rise like fog, spreading into the solar system's empty spaces. These are not explosions. They are sighs, exhalations of mass and memory. The sun is not dying in violence. It is shedding its skin, casting off what it can no longer hold. Each wave of matter carries the ashes of fusion, helium, carbon, oxygen into the void, seeding the silence with what remains. You float near its photosphere, the visible surface, though it no longer has an edge. The boundary blurs. It is hot here, over 5,000 degrees Celsius, but the core below is much hotter, shrinking and heating as fusion races toward its end. Pressure mounts. Fusion deepens. But the sun is running out of elements it can burn. Heavier elements begin to form, in the center carbon, oxygen, but fusion cannot go further. The sun is not massive enough to ignite those elements. It lacks the weight to continue. So the fire continues only at its edge, in thin shells of helium. The core becomes a pressure chamber, heat increases, radiation rises, but there is no new path forward. It is here, in this moment of impossibility, that the undoing begins. The sun's outer layers, can no longer be held by the gravity of the core. The balance tips. The final pulses of energy from shell fusion throw the layers outward, like petals curling away from a flower. What was once the body of a star becomes a cloud, vast, glowing, beautiful. You do not see destruction. You see release. The layers drift outward, lit from within by the remaining heat of the core. This is the birth of a planetary nebula, a glowing shell of gas expanding into interstellar space, rings of color, swirls of light, a soft echo of everything the sun once gave. At the center, something remains. The core, collapsed into itself, no longer burns, it no longer fuses. But it is hot, millions of degrees pressurized beyond comprehension. This is the beginning of its final form, a white dwarf, small, dense, hot and silent, but not yet. For now, the transition is incomplete. The core still glows, the nebula still expands, and you remain suspended between endings. You float above the glowing debris, remembering what each particle once was: a piece of a planet, a breath of a forest, a flicker of sunlight on water, all now transformed, all now drifting. You begin to understand that this is not just the death of a star. It is the closing of an era. The solar system, once full of motion and variety, has become a shell of light. The planets are gone. The orbits have collapsed. The balance of gravity has shifted. There is no longer a center, only heat. And yet, even here, even now, you feel wonder. The sun is undoing itself not in rage, but in honesty. It has nothing left to give, so it gives everything. Its final gesture is beauty not for an audience, but as a law of nature, the physics of fire, the logic of light. You drift along the edge of the nebula, through bands of gas colored by ionized elements, green from oxygen, red from hydrogen, purple from nitrogen. Each glow marks the presence of energy released, not created. The nebula is not a living thing, but it moves, it pulses, it expands. And for thousands of years, it will remain visible across the galaxy to distant eyes, a monument to what once was. You try to imagine what comes next. The nebula will thin, its light will fade. The gas will stretch too far to glow, and at its center, the white dwarf will remain cooling slowly, no longer burning, but still massive. It will not grow, it will not shine forever, but it will persist. A cinder in the dark, a fossil of fusion. This is not fire, it is pressure. The atoms inside the dwarf are crushed together, held up by electron degeneracy, a quantum resistance to further collapse. The white dwarf does not fuse, it does not fall. It simply holds. You draw back now, watching the full scene unfold. The red giant phase has ended. The nebula expands, the dwarf cools. The star has eaten itself, not in fury, but in function. It burned until there was nothing left to burn. It held itself until it couldn't. Then it let go. There is grief here, yes, but there is also peace. The sun gave more than light. It gave pattern, orbit, time. It gave the conditions for life. The colors of morning, the rhythm of seasons, its warmth-shaped oceans, its gravity-carved paths. Its light painted shadows on the floor of every forest that ever grew. Now all of that has folded into silence, but nothing is truly gone. The particles released by the sun will one day join other clouds, gather again into stars, fuse again into light. The hydrogen it formed in its youth may now rest in a cold place, but even that still belongs to the cycle. The universe remembers. You remember. As the white dwarf begins to form fully, you drift backward, giving it space. There is no heat to fear now, no flares, no radiation, only the quiet pressure of what remains. The corpse of a star, still turning, still pulling, still shaped by everything it once was. It does not know that it has died. And perhaps, in this long arc of time and motion, that is the most honest kind of ending. The heat has passed, the fire has dimmed, the blaze that once engulfed the solar system has retreated inward, leaving only stillness. You float above what remains. Where once the sun swelled as a red giant, flooding space with fire, there is now only a glowing ember, a white dwarf, dense and hot, compact beyond imagination. The layers of the sun have all been shed. They float outward in a soft halo, expanding slowly into the void, a planetary nebula glowing faintly in blue and green and red, lit from within by the fading pulse of the star's last breath. There is no explosion, no dramatic fall. The collapse has already happened, and it was not violent, it was inevitable. As the fusion ceased, the pressure dropped. The outward force that held the sun's layers at bay fell silent. Gravity, ancient and constant, took over. The core gave in, not in chaos, but in precision. The collapse was not wild. It was gentle. Layer by layer, the sun folded into itself until only the center remained hot, heavy, and impossibly small. You approach this remnant now. It is the size of Earth, yet holds a mass nearly that of the entire Sunday. A teaspoon of its matter would weigh as much as a mountain. There is no surface in the way you once understood it, no crust, no landscape, just a sphere of carbon and oxygen under pressure so extreme that electrons themselves resist being squeezed further. It is held up not by heat, not by motion, but by quantum law, a force called electron degeneracy pressure, a resistance that arises only when particles are packed so closely that they begin to repel each other out of sheer proximity. The white dwarf is smooth, uniform. It spins slowly. There are no flares, no spots, no layers to churn or collapse. The nuclear furnace is extinguished. But the star still shines not from fusion, but from memory. The core still glows with residual heat. That glow is what lights the nebula still expanding around it, like steam from a long-cooled kettle. It will take tens of thousands of years for that gas to fade into the darkness. The light will linger, but it too will go. You watch the dwarf closely. The light it gives is steady, unblinking. It has no heartbeat now, no seasons, no changes in brightness. The light is not born anew, it is the slow leak of stored energy, like warmth escaping a stone left in the sun. Every second, it cools imperceptibly. There is no fanfare, no visible shift, just a slow slide into stillness. Around it, the silence is vast. The inner planets are gone. Mercury and Venus were swallowed. Earth was vaporized. Mars may still remain, scorched and alone. The outer gas giants continue their distant orbits, but even they are changed. The sun's loss of mass during its red giant phase weakened its gravitational grip. The planets drifted outward, further from the center that once held them close. Some moons have broken free, some orbits have unraveled. The system is a shell now, its shape preserved, but its center transformed. You drift above the pole of the white dwarf and look down. There is nothing here that speaks of what came before, no hint of light curves, no echoes of solar storms. But you remember, the fusion that once turned hydrogen into helium, the balance that lasted for billions of years, those processes are finished. What remains is structure, not energy. A star in name only, and yet it remains a body of great importance. Its gravity is immense. Objects that pass too close are drawn in, not consumed by fire, but shattered by tidal forces. Its magnetic field, though weaker than before, is still real. If a companion star were nearby, material might still spiral in, igniting short flashes novae that blink against the darkness. But this dwarf is alone. You think of all the things that lived in the light of this star: forests, rivers, birds, and insects and machines. Cities that watch the sun rise and fall, poems written in morning light. The warmth of a quiet afternoon on skin. All of that, all of those memories, all of that rhythm, now folded into this single point of pressure, the dwarf cools. It will take billions of years to fade completely, perhaps even trillions. But there is no rush. The universe around it is patient. Time stretches longer now. The expansion of space has pulled galaxies apart. The stars grow fewer. The light thins. The night grows larger than the day. Eventually, this white dwarf will no longer glow. It will become a black dwarf, a cold, dark mass of carbon and oxygen, invisible to the eye, unfeeling, unmoving. It will drift forever, unless disturbed by a passing star or pulled into a larger body. But even in that darkness, it will remain whole. You drift away from it now, slowly, watching the dim halo of the nebula fade behind you. It looks like a ghost, a memory made visible. The light that once was warmth has become structure. The heat that once birthed life has become silence. But the journey is not sad. It is slow, patient, honest. The star lived a complete life. It gave what it had. It flared, fed, grew, and then released. Not in rage, but in rhythm. The final collapse was not a fall, but a settling, a sigh, a return. You imagine holding a diamond in your hand, cool, weighty, clear, a crystallized form of something once alive. That is what this star has become. Not dust, not ashes, but a jewel of pressure and time. Some scientists believe that in the far future, as the white dwarf cools, its core will crystallize, turning into an immense diamond in space. A star's heart, frozen in symmetry. There is beauty in that, quiet beauty. The black dwarf it will one day become will not vanish. It will simply fall below the threshold of sight. It will be a presence that cannot be seen, a mass that curves space but casts no light. And it will last longer than anything else. You drift onward, slowly leaving the last warmth behind. The white dwarf fades into the backdrop. The stars around you grow colder. The void deepens. But you feel no fear. The light may be gone, but it has left its story in you. You remember how the sun once danced in the leaves, how it colored clouds at dusk, how it cast shadows that stretched and softened, how it painted the skin of fruit, how it woke the day. Now it sleeps. And what remains is not emptiness, but memory. Not a fire, but a glow inside the self. The gentle collapse is not a failure. It is a return to stillness. You are far from where it all began. The warmth of stars, the pull of orbits, the rhythm of sunrises, all of it lies behind you now. The white dwarf that was once the sun grows colder with each passing eon. It no longer casts heat. It no longer glows with the last breath of fusion. The nebula that briefly surrounded it has faded into darkness. Its colors gone, its light stretched thin across the emptiness. All that remains is the object itself, small, silent, invisible against the backdrop of an expanding cosmos. The star has not died with drama. It has simply fallen asleep. Time behaves differently now. It is no longer measured in years or seasons. There are no days to count, no clocks to wind, no stars to trace across the sky. Time is marked by distance, by silence, by temperature falling by fractions. The white dwarf continues to cool, its molecules slow. The energy it once held now radiates only faintly into an ever-growing void. You drift in that void, a witness to stillness. The space around you is quiet not because nothing exists, but because everything that once spoke has fallen silent. Stars are fewer now. The ones that remain are old, dim, or collapsed. Some shine weakly in red. Some have already faded. The galaxies themselves are drawing apart, stretched by the expanding fabric of space. The gaps between stars widen. The light that once connected them thins. The cosmic background grows colder. Its glow dims, its hum weakens. You look back toward the remnant of the sun. You can no longer see it. It is still there, but without glow, without signal, without warmth. It has become what scientists call a black dwarf, a theoretical object so cold and faint that it emits no visible light. No one has ever seen one, because the universe is not yet old enough for them to exist. But you are here now, drifting in a time so distant that theory has become memory. The black dwarf is not a shadow. It is a presence. It still curves space. Its mass still pulls gently on passing particles. It still turns, slowly, silently. Its atoms are locked in place, frozen into a crystal lattice of carbon and oxygen, a stellar diamond, vast and dark. It does not shine, but it is real. Around it, nothing stirs. The planets are gone. The dust is gone. The asteroid belts have scattered or fallen inward. The outer solar system may still hold fragments, cold rocks that orbit silently, but there is no more sun to anchor them. Some have drifted away. Some have collided. Some have fallen into the black dwarf and disappeared without sound. You float above this corpse of a star, and you begin to feel the scale of time. Billions of years have passed. Trillions. There are no calendars anymore. The universe has entered what physicists call the degenerate era, a time beyond stars, beyond fire, beyond growth. It is not empty, but it is quiet. Some stars still flicker far away, brown dwarfs, neutron stars, perhaps a few red dwarfs that burn so slowly they might last another trillion years. But nothing new is being born. The star nurseries are gone. The hydrogen clouds that once sparked stellar creation have been stretched too far, thinned too much. Gravity cannot pull them together anymore. The fire of the cosmos has been banked. Black holes still exist. They drift through space, consuming what little remains, slowly, without malice. They are not predators, but remnants of even greater collapse. If the black dwarf you watch now wandered too close to one, it would be swallowed. But for now, it drifts alone, unclaimed. You begin to wonder what it means for something to end. The star did not vanish. It did not cease to be. It only changed form, fire to stone, light to memory. Its presence remains. Its gravity remains. Its mass remains. But its voice is gone. The universe feels different now. It once buzzed with radiation, lit by galaxies, stirred by explosions. Now it settles. The echo of the Big Bang grows fainter. The cosmic microwave background, once warm enough to glow, is now colder than the black dwarf itself. You are older than light. And yet, there is a strange kind of beauty in this, a deep serenity. No chaos, no urgency, just motion so slow it feels like rest. You orbit the black dwarf once, twice, perhaps 1,000 times, but nothing changes. Its shape is perfect. Its silence is complete. It has nothing more to give. You remember what it once was, a giver of light, a source of rhythm, the center of life. Its photons touched leaves and rivers, stone and skin. It warmed earth. It painted sky. It carried time forward. And now, it holds it still. You drift away, slowly, sensing the edge of the old solar system. There are no boundaries here, only gradients of gravity. You cross them like a ripple across glass. Each passing year stretches longer, each orbit wider. The light from distant galaxies reaches you only as whispers, infrared sighs, stretched across impossible distances. Their shapes are gone, their stars are cold, their time has passed. And yet, something in you remembers warmth. Not just physical heat, but meaning, purpose, connection. The way sunlight fell across a window, the way it stirred air, the way it invited life to rise from soil. You remember how the sun defined not just the day, but the story. It marked beginnings and endings. It gave rhythm to sleep and growth, to thought and action. Its collapse did not erase that story. It completed it. Now you are beyond story, beyond sequence. You are presence itself. And yet, even here, in this space without light, you are not alone. The laws still hold. Gravity still moves. Atoms still exist. Particles still shift. The universe is not dead. It is slow. It is resting. Eventually, all motion may stop. The last black holes may evaporate. The final atoms may decay. Entropy may claim the last sparks of order. But not yet. Not now. Now, you float in a sky that no longer glows, but still holds its shape. You pass remnants of stars, each one a monument to a life lived brightly. You pass collapsed cores, long-cooled worlds, dust frozen in orbit. You pass through the memory of what was once a cosmos of fire. And still, the black dwarf turns, slowly, soundlessly, perfectly. It does not call out. It does not wait. It simply is. You look forward now, into a sky without stars, and though there is no more heat, you still carry the warmth. There is no sunrise to greet you now, no golden light cresting a distant hill, no warmth gathering in the east. The sun, once the anchor of your sky, the rhythm of your hours, has fallen silent. It no longer burns, it no longer glows. It has become a shadow of mass drifting in space, cold, invisible, without pressure or flame. You drift beyond it, slowly, surrounded by the great hush of a universe that has outlived its brightest fires. And yet, everything is still moving. You feel it in the slow pull of gravity, in the gentle turning of forgotten orbits, in the faint hum of distant mass bending space ever so slightly. This is not a dead universe, it is a sleeping one. a place where time has stretched into silence, where the loudness of creation has faded, but not ended. You move through this silence, not as a visitor, but as a memory that remembers light. The sun gave you life, not just through warmth and energy, but through boundaries. It divided day from night, year from year, dream from waking. It gave the earth its heartbeat. It raised trees, fed oceans, melted snow, lifted water into clouds, and now it has stopped. But in stopping, it has not vanished. The black dwarf that remains is dense, precise, still turning in the dark. Its mass still pulls gently on passing matter. Its atoms, compressed to their limits, still hold the shape of what once burned. It is no longer visible, no longer radiant, but it is still there. Like the deepest part of sleep, quiet, cold, but full of what came before. You move outward. Beyond what was once called the solar system, there is no light to guide you, no planets to orbit, no gravity to keep you bound, only memory. The shapes of orbits remain, traced invisibly into the curvature of space. Somewhere, far beyond the frozen belt of comets and drifting debris, you cross the edge of what the sun once claimed. You are no longer within its reach. You have left its light, its warmth, its influence, and yet it is still with you. The photons it gave off, countless, ceaseless, once streamed through your atmosphere. They lit oceans and canyons. They turned water to vapor, vapor to cloud, cloud to rain. They entered leaves, turned carbon to sugar, sugar to seed, seed to forest. They warmed skin, lifted moods, marked time. They were caught by eyes and translated into memories, into laughter, into color, into music. That sunlight is gone now, but its effects remain. They are written into the very structure of molecules, into the bones of things. You carry the memory of light. The universe around you is darker now, not because it is empty, but because the distance between stars has grown so vast that their light cannot reach you. Space continues to stretch. Galaxies drift beyond one another's sight. The light that once stitched the cosmos together is unraveling, stretched into wavelengths too long for any eye to see. Still, the laws remain. Gravity holds its shape. Matter bends space. Electrons resist compression. Neutrinos flow like wind in a place without air. Time continues not because there is a clock, but because there is still change. Even if that change is measured in the cooling of a star so faint you can no longer find it. Even if it's felt in the slow orbit of dark matter halos, pulling nothing into shape. Even if it's traced in the slow spiral of two black holes that will not meet for trillions of years. The story hasn't stopped. It's just become quiet. You think of what came before, how stars were born in clouds, how galaxies spun like dancers, how planets cooled from fire, how life took root on a pale blue world circling a middle-aged star. You remember the rise of forests, of breath, of language. You remember the cities lit at night, the faces lifted toward the sky, the feeling of morning. You remember shadows and seasons, and the simple miracle of light passing through leaves. These things are gone now, but they happened, and so they remain. You drift among remnants, dim stars barely clinging to heat, rogue planets lost to space, cold ancient white dwarfs still glowing faintly in corners of the dark. Every one of them carries a story. Some are stars that burned too fast. Some are stars that never had planets. Some may still have moons drifting in endless night. You do not know their names, but you know what they are made of: ashes of old fire. You are not looking for light anymore. You are looking for pattern. And you find it in the spacing of collapsed stars, in the motion of dust, in the faint gravitational waves from collisions long ago. You find it in the quiet itself. The universe is not random. Even in sleep, it holds shape. The sun, even now, is not meaningless. It is part of the shape. One note in a song that has become a hum. You wonder what will come after. If anything, will new stars form? Will black dwarfs drift close and spark against one another? Will quantum particles tunnel through the impossible and trigger new beginnings? You do not know. No one does. But the question remains. The end of the sun is not the end of the universe. It is the end of one voice. You close your eyes not because you need sleep, but because you want to remember. You picture a morning, the faint warmth of sunlight on skin, the sound of birds stirred by light, the soft glow of leaves waking, the feeling of being within something bright. You remember how the light caught dust in a room, how it slid across water, how it made the sky seem endless. These are the gifts of the sun, not just energy, but presence, place, meaning. Now that presence is internal. It lives in memory, in awareness, in the shape of how you understand time. You drift farther still, past stars so faint they no longer name themselves. You are surrounded by shadow, but you do not feel alone. You carry a story. It began in light. It moved through warmth, through seasons, through sleep and waking. It burned and cooled. It remembered. And now it rests. The Sunday sleeps, but you remain, not to wait, but to witness, not to rekindle, but to remember, and in that remembering the light never truly ends. You've drifted far, across time, across fire, across silence. You've followed the sun from its first flicker in a cradle of dust to its final sigh in a sky without colour. You have watched it burn, stretch, collapse, and fade. You've seen Earth warmed and erased, Mercury fall, Venus surrender, and the stars around it blink away into memory. And through it all, you've remained drifting, listening, remembering. This was not a story of tragedy, it was a story of change, because nothing truly vanishes. Not the heat, not the motion, not the rhythm that once stirred tides and seasons and breath. All of it transforms. Energy never dies, it simply shifts. The warmth that once kissed your skin at dawn is still here, somewhere, scattered across the cosmos in particles and pulses. The shadows once cast beneath trees now echo in the shape of gravity and stone. The sun did what it was meant to do. It burned, it fed, it held. It gave Earth its day, its year, its breath. And when it could give no more, it let go. Not in rage, but in rhythm. Its final act was not destruction, it was release. A return to stillness, to simplicity, to rest. And as it rests, so do you. The light is gone from the sky, but it is not gone from you. You carry it still in thought, in memory, in the gentle shape of understanding. The sun shaped not just the earth, but your sense of time, your sense of warmth, your idea of morning. Those things do not disappear when the star dims, they become part of you. Now, in this quiet sky, you know what it means to be small, but not unimportant. You are a witness to a story that unfolded over billions of years. A single star, one life among trillions, but one that mattered. One that lit a planet full of wonder. Sleep now, if you haven't already. Let the silence of the sky fold around you. Let the memory of light settle gently in your chest. The stars will keep turning, even if we cannot see them. The atoms will keep moving, even when the fires go out, and you will keep breathing, slowly, deeply, into the space the sun once filled. Because endings are never just endings. They are pauses. They are passages. They are the soft space where something new might begin. Good night, dear listener. And thank you for following the light all the way to the end.